Welcome to Stay Curious, everybody. I'm your host, Mark Marquette. So glad you joined us today on a rather hot December 4th here
Yep.
in the middle of the state of, Tennessee, of Florida. And here I am with Gary Allgaier. Hey, Gary.
How you doing,
Thanks
Mark?
for coming in today. When Gary's a docent here, and his wife will let him.
Yeah.
Uh, we love to talk about the current events we're going to talk about today, and today is really an amazing mission in Gemini 60 years ago. I want you to wrap your head around Gary and me, just like this,
Yes.
for
14
14
days.
days, and we couldn't stretch our legs. I couldn't get away from him to go to the bathroom or
Well,
eat or sleep or
got
whatever.
got to watch you do it.
Yeah, Frank Borman and Jim Lovell, just I think it's one of the most underrated human psychological experiments ever.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's amazing that they survived and didn't have a fight or anything like that, but they got along very, very well.
I do believe Captain Borman, the commander, went on the flight deck, said, "I want to announce that Jim and I are engaged." I think he said that on the
Yeah.
deck on there. But of course, they become friends for life,
Yeah.
and then went to the moon on Apollo 8. But this 14-day mission, was it really necessary? We'd already done an 8-day mission with Cooper and Conrad, and the distance to the moon, was going to be 3 days there, 3 days back on the moon for a day. So, that's a week. So why do you think they pushed the envelope?
One of the reasons they possibly would be is to validate the fuel cells for a long time because they did work for the 14 days
Okay.
versus I think on GT5 they were supposed to go 8 days and the fuel cells did not last the full 8 days.
And exactly, yes. So a fuel cell, what's that in a nutshell? There, our structural engineer here, but fuel cell did what?
Well, that's where they generate electricity through a process of taking oxygen and hydrogen and bringing them together, and they get electricity as a product that they want, and as a byproduct, they get water for drinking. So that's what they've used. And the fight GT5 was the first time anybody ever flew a fuel cell. So the Russians still have not developed a fuel cell for their spacecraft.
Yeah, they use batteries
Yeah,
still
batteries.
in there.
Yeah,
Of course,
yeah,
batteries have gotten lighter.
yeah,
Mitch Rothman's in the building here. Thank you,
yeah.
Mitch, for showing up today. He'll be on our show tomorrow, and we're going to talk about everything he's involved in with his NASA Manned Space Facebook page and YouTube channel. And he's involved with trying to make July 20th the National Moon Day,
Oh,
the moon landing, and he's involved with the astronaut and the artist, a cool little DVD or documentary that we had at Shuttle Fest 4 last year. So, Mitch, thank you for being here. Would you hand me my phone when you get a second there so I can say hi to Rosalie and all the good friends watching today out there? Marty, you see some questions, we'll take them. Let's get through a couple little things here before we get into Gemini. We got two birthdays, but I threw this one up there because you are a structural engineer, and for the first time in the 25 years of continuously occupying the International Space Station, all 8 spaceports are docked at.
yes.
And 8 vehicles docked at all of the spaceports. As a structural engineer, uh, I'm not going to say is it safe because they obviously wouldn't do it if it wasn't. But what do you think about that?
Well, it's pretty important. They had the ports for this main reason, and this is the first time that they've used all 8 of them. And I don't see structurally wise why it would be any issue,
Uh huh.
unless one of the spacecraft had a thruster problem. But that's normal for any time that they're docked with the International Space Station. But it's putting it to good use.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We got 3 crewed spacecraft there, and the rest of them are cargo ships. So they ought to have a lot of supplies and goodies for the holidays up
Yeah.
there. Looks like Soyuz MS-27's coming back over the weekend, December 8th, with Johnny Kim, NASA astronaut, up there for 8 months. Progress 92 will come burned up in the atmosphere probably within a few weeks. So, but it's kind of cool, and I love this perspective, and we love on Stay Curious keeping up with you on what is orbiting the Earth on our space stations, both the ISS and the Tiangong space station. So, let's get a couple birthdays out of the way. Happy birthday to Canadian first astronaut woman Roberta Bondar. She's 80. And she was born in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, December 4th, 1945. She flew on a Discovery on Mission 42 in 1992. And she is become some award-winning photographer. She's a professional nature photographer, authored 4 essay books, and has been featured on a lot of Canada's TV stations and so forth for her work. So happy birthday to Canadians' first woman in space, Roberta Bondar. And the other woman to go to space is Julie Payette, who we've met a lot. And then the other birthday is to Ron Sega is 73. Ron Sega was born December 4th, 1952 in Cleveland, Ohio, one of the 24 or so Ohio-nauts. He has 2 space flights for 18 days, STS-60 in 94 and STS-76. He and astronaut Bonnie Dunbar were once married and now are divorced. So that's very interesting. He went twice to the Mir space station, STS-60 and STS-76. That's a pretty good luck of the draw.
Yeah.
Getting an assignment like that twice. So happy birthday to them. We love talking about our shuttle astronauts. They're in the communities doing great things out there. And go see them, which we have seen Tom Jones out to Space Center this week and enjoyed a nice dinner with Tom. He's going to be part of Shuttle Fest, and we're excited about that. And we're talking maybe a yearly participant in Shuttle Fest. Tom Jones, 4 space flights.
Yeah.
He importantly did the spacewalks on Destiny to hook it up. One of the most important shuttle missions would be Destiny, the American core up there. So, all right. Love our astronauts. Let's talk about today in history. 60 years ago, okay, I'm a teenager and just eat up with the fact that every other month, every 6 weeks was another 2-man Gemini launch there. Now, I'm falling off the picture here, Marty. I don't know if that's bothering anybody else but me, but I get over there to Gary a little bit closer, I guess. What a rocket this Titan was. Of course, it had a nuclear warhead on it when NASA got a hold of it for a spaceship.
Yeah,
But
until they man-rated it, yeah.
Yeah. Tell us a little about that rocket.
Well, it uses hypergulf fuels, and which are 2 fuels that one's an oxidizer and one's a fuel. I'm not going to try to murder the names of those fuels, but
Yeah. Tetrahydrazine and
one produces a red cloud. I know that, and you got to stay out of that one because it'll kill you. But when the 2 come together, they don't need an ignition source. They automatically will ignite. So for a early warning response missile, it was very good because it didn't have to have a lot of critical storage items like the Atlas had to have or the Thors. So they could launch it pretty quick. The other thing about it, it was the first that I know of that we used a hot fire in separation, like we're going to do on Elon Musk's ship.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
They had blowouts between the 2 stages. But
Okay.
that's the first, and the Russians use it all the time. They just
They do hot fire. That's why you see a big
yeah,
gap in between
in
their
between them.
stages there.
Instead of just physically pulling them apart and then lighting the engines. I guess this is a little bit simpler, but it's a little bit more hazardous, I think, to do a hot fire. But that's what they did.
I've talked to a couple, seen interviews and stuff. astronauts that rode the uh, well, John Young rode, Atlas, rode the Titan, the Saturn V, and then a shuttle. This was like a sports car to all of them.
Yes,
Smooth
yeah.
ride to space,
Yeah.
quick. Yeah, really.
It was clean burning. It was, used those fuels were pretty clean burning.
Mhm.
You didn't see a lot of smoke from it.
I always look back, Gary, and it's a technology that we perfected in these successful launches, 10 of them in 2 years, and then we never used it again for a manned vehicle. We got to go to something else. And I always wish we had an arsenal of crewed spacecraft with the hypergolic fuels on them ready to for access to the International Space Station if
Yeah.
something horrible happens and they got to save them within 45 hours or something.
Well, we have that today with Elon. He can put one out pretty good.
Can he? Well, we hope.
Yeah.
Yeah, likewise, but that's still, not like the state of readiness like these would have been.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
you said, in a silo
Silo,
all over our western plains up there. So,
ready to go.
well, we celebrate the Gemini program with and Mercury with a beautiful uh, gallery. That's our backdrop here. Let me get rid of that picture there. Talk about the backdrop. If I made ourselves smaller here. The centerpiece is Gus Grissom's flight suit, not flight suit, but his flight coveralls that he wore. There's a picture of him after his Gemini flight with John Young. I saw you giving a tour in there today to some people. I always point out to our foreigners, or tourists, I mean, that if you watch the news, and you probably do, looking at the weather in your hotel room, you might hear a wreck or something on the John Young Parkway.
Yeah.
And that's named after this astronaut. And there'll be people from Orlando that say, I didn't know that.
Yeah. John Young, yes. He was a resident of Orlando for quite some time.
He grew up in Orlando,
Yeah.
born in San Francisco, but moved here in a young age. And so the John Young Parkway is named after him. A woman got through to him when he was chief of the astronaut office and complained to him that he needed to clean up his parkway. It had litter all over the place up there. True story. So other things in here that are just so cool that we're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but we've got this is the plays in today's program. That sheet of paper in the case on the left, given as the EKG, thank you, Marty, is the EKG and respiratory rate of Wally Schirra and Tom Stafford when they had their abort of GT6. And the anomaly of Gemini program is Gemini 7 was launched before Gemini 6 because of this launch pad abort. And that's a cool thing to see when you roll it out. The EKG and the respiratory rate is something they're not scared. It's like, doggone it, we want to go. What's going on? Let's get this thing rolling. Fear was not a factor in astronauts' demeanor.
Well, I don't know. The story that I tell, which I think it may be an exaggeration or not, but Tom Stafford and all the other astronauts did not like the injection seats.
Oh, right.
And the main reason why, and Tom Stafford, this is a statement that he has actually said, is that if they were sitting on the pad and they had to do an ejection, when they fired the ejection seats, instead of seeing two astronauts come out like this, they'd see two Roman candles.
Yes.
And the reason they would have Roman candles is because they're sitting in pure oxygen for hours, and that absorbs into your clothes. It's hard to believe, but it really does. And so when that rocket engine that's down there below their butt fires, it's going to set them on fire. So that's why you would see the two Roman candles. Now, the story that I've always heard, I don't know if it's true or not, is that when they started to lift off, the ground strap broke too early. And they lifted out maybe 3/4 of an inch. Marty, it's kind of iffy. And the engine, when its ground strap broke, it told the computer that they were in orbit, so it shut down the engines. And so it sat back down. And the story that I've heard is that Wally Schirra reached down to take the injection handle to eject. And Tom Stafford put his hand across his chest and said, "Do not do that." And he said, "We'll just sit here because I didn't feel a bump."
That's the other way around.
Was
You
it?
said
It was what I mean.
Stafford put his hand on there, and Wally said, "Don't do it."
No, Tom Stafford said, "Don't do it."
Oh, okay.
He put his hand across them and said, "Don't do it,"
All right.
because Wally was going to pull the injection handle, and that's a story I've always heard. So, but the crews did not like the injection seats, and one of the complaints was, NASA did do a live test with one, except they didn't use pure oxygen in the cabin before they launched. They used just normal atmosphere. And so, they looked at the Russians and says, "Well, the Russians are using ejection seats, yeah, but they're in dual atmosphere at 14.7 psi." So that's why that was a kind of an oversight, but we were lucky.
Yes, they were lucky. Yeah, it's part of our fabric of our space program. These two missions and how they intertwined.
One other thing, which is really, really lucky, is after it sat down and the crew got out, the people that run the engines started looking through all the data from that aboard, and they noticed that there was an anomaly in the fuel system. And if they had not found that and fixed it, because it ended up being a oxidizer valve, I think it was oxidizer valve that was not properly configured or had a blockage. And if they would have had to have boarded during the ascent, and so they would again still come out as two flaming candles. So they were very lucky, and they were able to turn that around, and eventually we call it 6A.
Very cool here. I'm looking at a couple notes I made about this, and we got some comments there. We've got Amy Collins and Alan Schmidt saying these are their favorite program. Mine too, so underrated. Mark Thel says the Gemini seats fired with an artillery shell charge till the seats cleared the cockpit. Then the rocket catapult fired after the seats were cleared. That's some nice detail there. Still enough spark there to set those guys on fire if and soaked oxygen in there. But why didn't they have a escape tower?
Max Fouget, I think, is named in this, but it may not have been actually him. They didn't like the escape tower because that was just a waste of weight that they had to add to the top of the capsule that they immediately throw away. And so he studied all the explosions from all the rockets up to that date. And what he noticed was that hypergolic rockets, that ball that was generated from the explosion on the pad was never as large as one that came from a regular RP-1 oxygen fire. And he said, that's cool. So that means I can take an ejection seat and I can shoot it out and I can clear that. So that's why he wanted to use the injection seats.
Very good.
Also, originally they wanted to land horizontally out in the desert. And they had the Regalo wing, and that was also one of the things that they would need, because if the wing did fail during any part of that landing, they could eject out and land.
Good point.
So
Paracel wing, think ultralight glider is what was going to be planned with Gemini, and we've done several programs on that over our 5.5 years doing this. And I just think of the years we've done this program, Marty, and you've got a question there from our viewers.
Yeah, we got a question from Mostly Parked. Was water suppression used during the launch?
On the Geminis, I don't think so. I don't think they had the sound problem that they would have for like the Saturn V's or the shuttle or Artemis. They just didn't produce enough thrust, and sound waves weren't as strong.
All right, good. I'm and seeing if there's any other questions there. Everybody's gotten their comments in there. So the hypergolics, we got Mark Thels good on this. Aerozine 50 and nitrogen tetroxide was on there. So We're going to see some cool pictures that hopefully you've never seen before. Maybe this one, huh? How about I got these out of sequence? James Bond with
Oh,
in
the
there.
jetpack.
When I was searching Roberta Bondor, and I put in BON, and when you're, if those of you that do a lot of this like I do, putting things together and harvesting your downloads and stuff, I put BON in there because I knew Bondor would come up, and Bond come up there, and I thought, oh, that's kind of
Yeah.
scientific and spacey, and
You know, we were supposed to fly one of those on GT9.
yeah. Yeah, right, right, and that's what Cernan was going to do.
Yeah.
Strap that on. His lower bottom was asbestos type on the back side,
Yeah.
so that the flames wouldn't go. I'm glad that never happened. That's they had to drag him in earlier. We know about the Gemini 9, close call there, and Bonistel came up. Chesley Bonistel, one of the great artists. There's his classic piece of us being on Mars with there's Elon Musk in 1952 on Mars there,
Yeah.
with another lander there. Yeah, Marty.
Increase your volume.
Increase the volume.
Increase your volume on your mic.
Increase the volume on the mic?
Yeah,
Yeah.
someone's saying the volume is low.
Okay. All right, there, it's pegged.
Okay.
It's pegged over here, Marty, on the volume.
Been
so.
talking a lot today, so my voice.
Gemini
is a little-
7, though. Oh, I had another one there. Bondi Beach. Okay. All right. Hope Cliff Watson's watching. Bondi Beach is one of the popular beaches on the Gold Coast of Australia, who is now witnessing their warm spell down there after going through a rainy winter, I understand. Cliffy, hope you're watching and feeling well. Well, here's the guys. When you see this picture, okay, of our astronauts, Jim Lovell on the left and the commander of the mission, Frank Borman, on the right. Why are they wearing aviators' helmets?
Well, that's a good question because they didn't wear those in actual mission.
Oh, they didn't?
No.
I thought they wore those like a crash helmet
No,
under the
they
big
had
soft
they had
helmet
the
there.
soft they had soft helmets, and I don't think there was anything underneath of them because there wasn't a lot of room, you know. So
Well, we might see that here in a
And,
minute. We see some pictures
yeah.
of them there, but
they're flying their T-38s, but I don't think they used that on the actual mission.
Lovell died when? Back in the spring at age 97, and Borman had died the year before. I think he was 96 or something. Lovell was the oldest living space flyer for a long time, and that title goes to now
Buzz Aldrin doesn't.
Buzzer, yeah, Buzz Aldrin at 95. So pushing up there. Here's these funky suits
Yeah.
that they wore. They were designed for the comfort of sitting on your butt for 14 days.
You know,
How else can you describe it in
the
weightlessness?
story I've heard, the genesis of those suits was suggested by an individual you wouldn't have known, but it was Mr. McDonnell, James McDonnell of the Aircraft Corporation.
Okay, Mac.
Yeah, when he found out that the crew was complaining about wearing that regular spacesuit for that long of a time, he suggested to NASA to come up with a very lightweight system that they could use since they're not going to be doing any EVAs. And it was a very soft system, the helmet was. It could be folded up.
And we've got a piece that's in our museum right there in our picture there on the wall beside the blue suit of Gus Grissom is this piece of artwork that is Paul Calley did this sketch, okay, of the mission, and this is Lovell and Borman in their lightweight 14-day flight suits approaching Complex 19 elevator on the way to the Gemini White Room to see Gunter Vent and get into their spacecraft there. So that caught my eye the first time I was here. And then
It caught my eye when the first time it came out of the transporter and I saw those suits. What the heck was that? And it's something I had never ever seen before.
Oh, really?
Yes.
And there were, of course, social media 60 years ago was nothing.
Yeah.
It was like, there they are getting out of them there. Where were you standing when you watched them come out?
Oh, I was on it. I was at home. I was still young.
I got
watching
you.
it. I watched it on
Yeah,
TV
right.
when
Yeah.
they came out.
Yeah. So that was a big part of it. Of course, launched on December 4th, 1965. Who's the backup crew? Who knows the backup crew?
Oh, I don't know that one.
It was Mike Collins and Ed White.
Oh.
And let's see, they actually this is a picture taken of them from Gemini 6 that was launched 11 days later. Some of my notes say that Lovell removes his pressure suit after about 2 days into the mission, 45 hours. He again donned his suit at 148 hours while Borman removed his. Some 20 hours later, Lovell again removed his suit, and both crewmen flew the remainder of the mission without suits except for the rendezvous and re-entry phases, the rendezvous with the Gemini 6. With 3 exceptions, the spacecraft and its systems performed nominally through the entire mission. A telemetry playback tape recorder malfunction, resulting in the loss of a lot of data at 201 hours. 2 fuel cell stacks showed excessive degradation late in the flight, were taken offline. The remaining 4 stacks furnished adequate power until re-entry, and 2 attitude thrusters performed poorly. After 283 hours into the mission, that's over 11, 12 days. I think that's after the rendezvous. Retro fire occurred exactly on time, and they landed about 6 miles from the carrier Wasp. Some of the most iconic images, of course, the rendezvous with Wally Schirra and Tom Stafford making a quick. Were they even up there a full day? I think they were up there 2 days or
2
3
days.
days. One far there's.
And again, Mr. McDonald is the one suggested to do this way, according to my sources. But he said that, we can get 6 ready and launch it when 7's up in orbit on the last few days.
It was a publicity coup for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say a propaganda piece on ours because they did do rendezvous. Of course, there was no docking attachments to either one of them, but they flew within, I don't know, how many feet do they say they came within each other?
They came very close.
Yeah, maybe too close, some people would think. They were in long johns, by the way. If you wonder what they had underneath there, well, they had like a full array of long underwear and wired up with sensors. All right, that was one of the more uncomfortable things, was the sensors that they wore. You can imagine where some of those sensors might be placed, might be a little uncomfortable from time to time on there. There they are when they came back. Borman shaved and Lovell didn't. Marty, you got a question?
Yeah. Nope.
Oh, no? Oh, okay. Here they are again. This is later in life. They appeared a lot together. Look at that. Holding hands, kind of. I mean, this is one of the brotherhood stories of NASA's astronaut crew. You just can't imagine how these guys loved each other, and each went a little bit different path after after Apollo 8. Borman retired, become the president of Eastern Airline at an unfortunate time for him to be president of that, because it didn't do very well. And Lovell, of course, commanded Apollo 13, and probably could have commanded another return to flight. And I still don't understand what Apollo 13 went through. Why didn't they just say to the guys, if you want to fly together, you're on the next trip to the moon? Too much stress, too much drama. What do you think?
Well, that and the crews, they're in training. They just don't wait till their mission to start training. They've been training a long time.
You're right.
And to switch that, they actually already switched the crew once. They were originally going to be on 14, and they switched back to 13 to accommodate Alan Shepard to be commander of 14. So that's about the best they do now. what's his name, Ken Mattingly, he did finally get to fly again.
Right.
to
Yes,
the
he
moon.
did.
But
Yes, we do have a Gemini Master Countdown checklist in the glass case. Amy Collins, we do. They occasionally come up on our auction, which is going to be Saturday. We'll talk about that tomorrow also. We're going to see some pictures here in a minute that are kind of unusual. But here is, where is the spacecraft at? Mitch Rothman, do you know where?
Wasn't listening.
oh,
Mitch is over here. Do you know where Gemini 7 is in Chicago?
I think it's in Chicago.
Okay.
We were talking about that. Gemini 7.
I don't remember.
That's Lovell's hometown. Steve Jokums, is he watching today? Yes, he is. He knows where the Gemini 7 spacecraft is. There's a picture of it there. I didn't have that put in my notes, so tell us about that. Cliff Watson, he's up now. Hang in there, buddy. Go ahead, Marty.
RG Jubilee is asking, when they came back, assuming that she means Gemini 7, didn't the spacecraft tip over upside down?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
No, they land
No.
horizontally in the water. They're not like a regular spacecraft.
Yeah.
The Gemini's landed flat, so there's no way for it to tip over
Mm-hmm.
at all.
The Apollo did, none more
Oh.
famous than the ASTP, the last
Yeah.
one.
So
Yeah.
Gemini, no, it's the only spacecraft that's ever been flown so far that lands horizontally in the water.
Okay. Yeah, but it didn't land on its heat shield.
No,
And there's another look at it there. Where is that? Although that could be Gemini 4. It's showing Ed White's spacewalk there. So disregard if this is misinformation. No, this is Gemini 7 right there in the case. Okay.
okay.
So who knows where that is? What does that look like?
And
Mitch?
Tom Ishak is saying it's at the NASM.
National Air and Space Museum.
National Air and Space Museum. Okay.
That's right. That's what.
All right. That's not Udvar-Hazy. That's the National Air, the
Well,
Smithsonian's. Sorry for that. Anyway,
can't remember.
it's well preserved. Here's the inside of it, the cockpit. Now we're going to really get a feel for how close this is. This is the commander on the left side, pilots on the right side. They're separated by that joystick and the control panel there. And of course, we celebrate a Gemini monument with a paver. This mission right there, that's their mission logo. We've got Jim Lovell's handprints in bronze out there. What happened to Lovell's? That's Lovell's. Borman's hands must not have translated on there. And they had some coins that are wonderful to have in your collection there for stuff like that. So there's Lovell looking at Borman looking inside there. Okay, you can get an idea of the small size of it with him squatting there. And then we'll see here a good look at a picture through that special window of them inside, and look at the proximity to each other there. Okay. They could not plan a spacewalk or even open the gull doors. All right.
They didn't
because
have a suit for it.
They didn't. These soft suits weren't. Couldn't keep them alive in the environment of the void of space. I always thought about that. Did one of them say, I need to stretch my legs out and lean over and let me put my legs on your thighs and stretch? I mean, wouldn't you want to stretch out and stuff?
Well, I don't think you could put your legs over the other one
Yeah.
because of the console that's in between the two of you. But
There you go.
I'm sure they could stretch out a little bit once they, if they were out of their harnesses, they could probably float up a little bit and stretch out, get them enough room to do that, if that's what they did. But they were tough. They're definitely tough.
Yeah, just and that's the whole test pilot demeanor, is you overlook things. The test pilot demeanor is level. You don't get too excited. You don't get too to down. You have to focus on what you think you can do in the situation you're in. If it's a bad one, start flipping the switches like you're told to, and blah blah blah.
That's
So,
why they're picked, because they know how to do that.
yep, that's why
I
they're.
mean, they've
picked
already
as-
demonstrated that in their career someplace.
There's your dinner there. That's Gus Grissom in the back there. The two astronauts in front. There's
Is Pete Conrad
making
there?
a joke is Pete Conrad. I was looking for Collins and White. White's at the back, isn't he? They must be on the left-hand side there. See the shaved spot on Borman's head? All right, you'll see that here in a minute. Marty, go ahead.
Yeah, we have a question from, wait a minute. Oh, Mark Dell, what happened to the hatches?
The hatches?
Yeah, and Mark, there's several comments you may want to look at.
We were looking at the pictures of the them in captivity, and I don't know what happened to the hatches.
They may have removed them for display purposes,
Yeah.
but they normally, they do come back with the hatches attached, and
Yeah, that just might be
that's just for display. They remove the hatches, just like they've done that on the Apollo program. If you go to some of the museums, the hatches are gone. They're sitting on a separate stand.
All right, we got their breakfast there, and I thought I'd give you a shot of the control room at the time there. That looks like a bean in the foreground. But yeah, this was your launch control for pad 19. There, they're putting electrode in Borman there. Boy, he looks young in that picture.
Yeah.
The decades we've seen him there. So, but they did have a lot of sensors on them. This was a biomedical experiment thing. And they're again inside a 360 fisheye view of them in there. Yes, exactly, Cliff Watson. There is no spare room in these, really crammed. And just, it became very bored. I think they took a couple books with them up to read. I want to think Ivanhoe was the one that I think that Jim Lovell took with him. But they didn't, it was, the boredom was broken up on the 11th day when they saw their buddies rendezvousing with them on there. And then a couple days later they landed. But amazing test of the, like you said, the fuel cells, and so forth. There's Lovell trying on some gloves. Again, Borman. His scalp's got some sort of electrode attached to it there.
You can see how soft the helmets are. They folded back and folded down. So
Yeah. And here's the landing. You always see the close-up pictures, of this stuff, and you don't know what's going on. It's like when we have our friends show us pictures of a launch or the walkout of the crew or something like that. What you don't see are the 100 other photographers beside him crowded. So I always love shots like this. The crew's in the middle. They brought the capsule over separately from them, apparently, and there they are, little wobbly. They're getting their sea legs back, literally there. Our heroes of Gemini VII, 60 years ago, spending a mission of 14 days. So they were up there the 14th to the 28th, so they were up there over Christmas. First crew to be up over Christmas. And I don't think there's much fanfare about that there. Tom Celentano might know about that. And thanks you for watching Amy Collins and Alan Schmidt. Hope to see more of Alan here at the museum, as he's going to be a docent. Mark Geiger, thank you for joining our party here. And Robert Barnett is watching today. Thank you. Cliff Watson down in Pomona, Australia. I showed a picture of the Bondi Beach, okay, because I was pulling up Bondar, the astronaut's birthday today, Cliff. So go check out that picture of the beach at the beginning of the show. Dave Stange, R.G. Jubilee, Steve Jokums, Tom Usiak, Gary Gerald, Doug Forrest, Carlton Bailey, Robert Law, George Smitty, and that's Marty's nephew. and Bonnie Smitty's watching too, we hoped, and Mostly Parked, and Mark Thell. Seen many of you face to face, and that means a lot to us here. Come to our museum on a Tuesday or Thursday and talk to this guy here. And as we look at, go ahead, Marty.
Yeah, question from Mostly Park. Did they take right hand, left hand dominant for seating? Since the control stick was in the middle.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I would think the commander probably had the right.
Yeah,
I've seen
commander's flying, and if he got incapacitated, then the other one would fly. But until then, until he turns control over to Borman, he's flying the vehicle.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay, good. And here we have the legacy of the Gemini program. Okay. The 10 patches of the missions. Okay. And one of the most important things was the docking. Now, which end do you put here to dock these
Oh,
things?
you're gonna rub that in?
This end is
Yeah,
the big end. Is
yeah.
that the one you dock it into?
Originally I said that, but then somebody came in the museum and said, no, it's not. And for some reason, it was based on that Apollo 9, Gemini 9 picture, because that's all you see is something like that.
Yeah.
So my bad.
Teasing Gary here.
Yeah.
We
lost a bet.
Hey, well, you're welcome. And that's all.
I apologize.
You'll get it back, but
Yeah.
no problem. That's
okay.
there's so much to know and so much minutia. And Mitch Rothman's over here. He's the administrator of his website. Don't get so uptight about our mistakes, okay? I make a lot of mistakes. All of us are busy in our lives.
Yeah.
We don't have a staff here at the American Space Museum to fact check anything I do. We have no teleprompter. We're off the cuff like we are today a lot. But we try to not extend ourselves where we're not talking about things that I do need to have substantiated, because we are a space museum and facts are facts.
Yeah.
But then, sometimes with some people I'm talking to them, they seem like the facts are getting in the way of their opinion, okay, in there. But all this stuff is pretty much written in stone and can be found somewhere. And all of you have found it. You found us.
Yeah.
And once in a while, I take criticism pretty well. Once in a while, I just get a little irritated about it because, Mitch is smiling. He knows what I'm talking about. And none more aggravating to me when I left off one astronaut Marine, on the 250th anniversary of the Marines.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
And I got called out in a public manner that I didn't appreciate, but we made up for that and made sure C.C. Clifton Williams was, everybody knows he's a Marine now, and the only active Marine. It's
And it wasn't me who called you out.
Hmm?
And it wasn't me who called you
No,
out.
it wasn't you that called you out at all. No, exactly. And we correct all of our mistakes a lot. And we don't make a lot of mistakes, I don't think. But it's easy to transpose a number. It's easy to hit the wrong key and make 6 instead of 7 in Roman numerals. And my gosh, it's, we know everybody knows a lot out there. And we're impressed with what you do know. What we want you to know is that we want to perpetuate the history of the American space program as we celebrate it here in our humble museum in downtown Titusville. These amazing missions. I wanted to go back to this one. No, what was I looking at? It's just so incredible to be a teenager during this period of time, eat up with telescopes and astronauts and wanting to go to the moon. In 1965 and 66, President Kennedy had been assassinated. The world seemed really tense at the time, and this was always the bright spot of our lives. And of course, 1968, the horrible assassinations and civil rights turmoil, and then Apollo 8 saved the year with that beautiful message that we'll be talking about, the Apollo 8 crew and their amazing orbiting of the moon on Christmas Eve 1968 with Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, and of course Jim Anders, who all three are gone.
Bill Anders, isn't it?
Bill Anders, yeah, Bill. Yep, see, Bill Anders. All right, in there. But thank you all for watching. There's their amazing mission there. that we're going to talk about, and kind of going to, not really going to be duplicated by Artemis 2 because they're not going to orbit the moon, but we'll talk about that at a later date. It's appropriate when we're thinking about these two missions, Gemini 7 and Gemini 8, that we show you some beautiful artwork by Doug Forrest. There you go, Doug. We haven't shown a piece of your artwork for a while. He has mastered the pencil in many ways, and that is his impression of Apollo 8 with the orbiter and the famous Earthrise in the background there. So thank you all for watching today. Hope that you go and check out the auction. I didn't put a slide on that, but our 41st memorabilia auction is Saturday, and we'll have Mitch on, Rothman, talk about his projects tomorrow's show, and we'll also update you on a few auction items to prime the pump for you to help us out by buying something at our really good Christmas auction. Anything you want to say about this mission or
No, I
whatever
think we
strikes your fancy there?
pretty well covered it. I know there's the Marines and the Navy and the Air Force, and when I was a young boy, and I'd go with my dad to watch the military land F-4 Phantoms at the St. Louis airport, without looking at the signature on the side, which branch it was, you could tell who was the Air Force pilot, and you could tell who was the Navy pilot and who was the Marine pilot by the way they touched down at the runway. The Air Force pilots would fly past the threshold where you start the runway, and they would land about 200 feet, 300 feet past that and land.
Okay.
The Navy would come in, and they would land about where there's some black marks there. They would touch those down. Their wheels would touch on that. The Marines, when they came in, their wheels touched at the very end of the runway.
Oh, really?
They slammed that thing in there. Yeah, you could just watch them, and they would just come flying in. And the dad had
Oh, you mean the beginning of the runway, not the end of the runway.
the beginning of the runway.
Beginning of the runway, yeah.
They would slam right in there. And one of my dad's employees, when he was working out there, he was talking. There was a road that passed right by that at Lambert Field, and he was going, and he slowed down because he heard the jet coming in, and a Phantom came in, and he watched the wheels go across his windshield. And the guy took out the fence. And if he had been another couple seconds ahead of that, he would have been had that F-4 Phantom in his car.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Hope that pilot got disciplined.
I doubt it.
You doubt it?
I don't know. I don't know if it was a company pilot or if it was one of the Marines. But they were tougher than everybody else when it came to landing those aircraft.
Thank you, Dave Stange, for the compliment on today's show. And Amy says she's going to lighten up on me. Thank you, Amy. Thank you so much. No, we appreciate your pointing out the errors. It's just sometimes some people aren't very nice about it. They think it's a catastrophe that we got something wrong on there. The runway thing and our branches of service, of course, I'll end with the main joke about the 3-mile long shuttle runway. You know what the joke of that is?
No.
They made it 3 miles long because they knew they would have some Air Force pilots landing there.
That's probably true.
Yeah. And when Jay Honeycutt said that in a bunch of Navy people out at the runway, he couldn't believe. He says they stood up and hooped and hollered. I couldn't believe the ruckus he's saying out there.
Yeah.
Of course, when you're Navy pilots, we know they land on anything that's floating in an ocean that they think they can get their stamp on there. So, Gary, again, thank you so much
welcome.
on there. I
Yeah.
know people don't get bored with you coming on here. They might get bored with me. That's why I bring you on to pep up things a little bit here. So, Marty, thank you for a great job today, all week as usual. We have anything to clean up over there?
We had just quite a few comments, Mark. I don't know if you want to go back and try and catch some of them.
Sure.
Amy Collins just wrote one. She said, I used to be overly tough on Mark until I realized the writing for the show was off the cuff. Sorry about those days, Mark.
Well, I accept your apology. If I had a teleprompter, this show probably wouldn't be half as good in my mind. I think what my friends tell me is they like me wearing it warts and all. And in today's podcast world, my God, some people just polish stuff up like crazy, you know. And we'll never be like that. We appreciate good polished talks like Gary always does, and Bob Granath is going to be in here with his usual program. Bob's going to do a show the week before Christmas. What do he want to do? I forget. But anyway, I do enjoy the guests the best, and that gets me off the hook. But believe you me, because of you all, and people like Gary and Mitch Rothman in the room here, and my big brother I never had over here, Marty Winkle, our museum is really thriving, and we are looking forward to a tremendous 2026, and maybe for the first time in 10 years, we're going to finish in the black as a nonprofit at this museum. And we have some deep plans that we did put the renovation on the gift shop on hold, though the money for that is in a safe place, and we'll definitely have that done by February. I talked to some. I didn't want to do it halfway with just a bunch of us retired guys grabbing our skill saws that we hadn't used in 6 months and taking it on. And I think I found the right affordable contractor to help us do that. So, but we're doing good because of you, and I can't emphasize that enough. And we just look forward to building our brand and our partners with you all through Shuttle Fest in June, and our memorabilia shows in February and in November, and all the other things we lace in between here, from auctions to 3-2-1 day and so forth and so on. So thank you all for your love and support and understanding. And until I just sign off with saying I am Mark Marquette, that's Gary Allgaier. We're pleased to be with you today, and we'll see you tomorrow with Mitch Rothman. And what we're going to do with Mitch, we're going to bridge outer space between us. Thank you so much, folks.